Ciao studenti! There are some Italian words that, if you say them in Italy, nobody will understand you. Now, many people of Italian heritage grow up using certain Italian words in their family and believing that they are standard Italian. For example, many Italian American people use words like gabagol or mutz or gavadel, and they genuinely think that these are normal Italian words. But then one day they visit Italy or they talk to their teacher and they say something like, Posso avere della gabagol? And the person in front of them has no idea what they're talking about. Now, the problem is not that these words are wrong. The problem is that they are not standard Italian, and most Italians in Italy today simply won't recognize them. But why does this happen? How is it possible that this happens with Italian words? Well, that's because between the late 1800 and the first decades of 1900, millions of Italian people emigrated from Italy, and many of them went to the United States. Most of them came from southern Italy, so regions like Campania, Sicilia, Calabria, and at that time, many people did not speak standard Italian in Italy. They spoke their local dialect. So the people who emigrated brought with them not the standard Italian, but Siciliano or Napoletano or Calabrese, their local dialects. What happened is that over generations in America, that dialect mixed with English, also ended up changing some consonant sounds, and also became kind of simplified and crystallized in time because even dialects evolve. Not only the standard language, but even the dialects have evolved over time. But in this specific scenario, the dialect kind of got crystallized and mixed up with English. So, for example, what happened is this. Let's take the word for type of pasta, which in an Italian American word for a type of pasta, which is manigot. Probably you heard that. In Italian, that word is actually this. The correct word is actually this. Manicotti. Manicotti. So as you can see here, what happened is this Italian C, manicotti, turned into a G, manigot, manigot. And also the ending vowel got lost completely. So instead of manicotti, it turned into manigot. And if you say manigot in Italy nowadays, most people won't understand you're talking about this type of pasta, and that's totally normal. So here's the key idea I want to share with you today. Italian dialects are not standard Italian. If you want to speak with Italians in Italy today, wherever you go in Italy, you will need standard Italian. But the point is, how can you tell if the words that you know, that you learned as a child, are standard Italian or an Italian dialect? Well, if you have Italian origins and your family emigrated before the 60s or the 70s, it's very likely that they spoke their local dialect in the family. And so you probably learned Siciliano, Napoletano, Pugliese, but not standard Italian. So you will have to kind of relearn the standard Italian version of those words if you want to speak with native Italian speakers in Italy today. Now, let me show you a few more examples with some more very common Italian words. They show you some common patterns of this process and this will help you recognizing these patterns with the words that you actually know. Let's take another very famous word, which is the word gabadel. I've heard this a lot with students, gabadel. The Italian word for that is cavatelli, cavatelli. So again, we can see some similarities. First of all, we need to pronounce the ending vowel. I know I always say this, I think in every one of my videos, but the ending vowel in Italian is crucial, is essential. Never skip that because it contains a lot of information. So that's why we always pronounce it. Also, the C that turned into a G. So in this case, they say it like gabagol, instead it's cavatelli. And it's also important to pronounce both L's, uh, the double consonants, cavatelli. Okay. Another one that I really like is mutz. Mutz. Can you guess what that is in Italian? Mozzarella. Mozzarella. My tip here is pronounce every single vowel. So don't shorten it up and say mozzarella. Take your time to say every single vowel and the double consonants too. Another one that I also like is 𝗪𝗱𝗱𝗀. 𝗪𝗱𝗱𝗀. Again, this is not standard Italian, but I see where this comes from personally, and I'm going to do that in a moment. So that in Italian is pasta e fagioli. Classical combination of Italian cuisine. Pasta e fagioli. Here we have the dropping of the final vowel of pasta, and also the G of fagioli turned into that Z. But actually, I understand this where this comes from personally because that's Sicilian. In Sicilian, to say fagioli, we say fasola, fasola with a Z, so totally different. So I see where this comes from, and then they drop the ending vowel. So past fasol. Instead, it's pasta e fagioli. Um, so these are common patterns, and I hope they will help you recognize those words and start understanding how we say them in Italian. Let me know if there are any Italian words, Italian American words, or any other part of the world words. Like, for example, if your family immigrated to Australia or to Germany, we had a lot of Italian people moving to those countries too, or anywhere else. Let me know if there are other words like these that you grew up hearing and surprised you when you visited Italy and people didn't understand you. I always love to hear about your experience, so write them in the comments. I'm very curious to read that. Now, here's something that I want you to remember. These words are not wrong. There's nothing wrong or bad with them. Those words are part of our beautiful cultural history. They tell the story of immigration and family roots, and there's nothing wrong with them. As I have explained in other videos that I will leave in the description, link in the description, dialects are proof of the incredible linguistic and historical variety of Italy. That's something very unique to us. And that's something that's worth preserving. But if you want to understand and communicate clearly in Italy today, wherever you go, from Palermo to Milano, you need standard Italian words and standard Italian pronunciation. And by the way, if Italian pronunciation is something that you struggle with, then my Italian pronunciation club might be helpful to you. Inside the Italian pronunciation club, I guide you step by step through all the sounds of standard Italian, including the most difficult ones like la R, the dreadful R, or L, or N, or sh, all terrible sounds of standard Italian. And you can practice them along with me. If you want to give it a try, you can immediately access some lessons for free. The link is in the description below this video. Now, one last interesting detail. In many cases, these words we're talking about today, so Italian words are not really understood by Italian native speakers, those words in some cases are not even identical to the original dialect. So they are actually modified versions of the dialect that change over generations abroad. And here we can take the famous example of gabagol. Gabagol comes from the Neapolitan dialect, the Neapolitan word capecuollo or capecuol. Now, I'm Sicilian, not Neapolitan. I'm trying to do my best with the Neapolitan dialect, but it sounds something like capecuol. In Italian, the word is capocollo. Capocollo, that's a type of curd meat. And as you can see here, we have the same patterns operating, and the ending vowel got lost, the C turned into a J, and you end up with a totally different word. But it's very different from the Neapolitan word too, because in Italy, nobody says gabagol, not even in the Neapolitan area. It's different Neapolitan dialect. So that's my point. All the languages of Italy are beautiful, but if you want to speak Italian in Italy today, you will need standard Italian words and standard Italian pronunciation. And that's all for today. I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao!